Well, summer is birthday season for our family. We have 3 birthdays that happen in a 2-week time frame, and it's intense. And when our kids were little, it was like planning parties, it was buying presents, it was just a really crazy season for us. But this summer, our boys turned 23 and 26. Like, how did that happen? It doesn't seem like it could be possible. Yeah, it means we're old. But I remember when they were little, and I remember when they were cute, and I remember when they fit on my lap and in my arms, and I remember the day that each of them were born. Sweet, sweet days. But a rather ominous coincidence. Our oldest son was delivered by Dr. Albert Rath. Our second son was delivered by Dr. Lisa Savage. Wrath and Savage. Wrath and Savage. How did that happen? Maybe it was a clue that this parenting journey was going to require more of me than I could ever imagine. And I feel like raising kids hits you in waves. And there's a new season, there's a new wave, there's a new demand. And it's physically demanding. It's mentally demanding, it's emotionally demanding, it's spiritually demanding. It requires so much of you. And I know in every season I've had moments where I felt like, I need help. Someone help me. Someone give me something to hold on to, a wise word, an encouragement. I need help. And maybe you're here today and you think, I could use some help in this journey. Maybe you don't have kids of your own, but you have kids that are watching you. Now, that's how children learn, right? They learn through observing. More than any other way, they are watching us. And how can we influence them? Whether we are parents, grandparents, teachers, coaches, aunts and uncles, siblings, how can we influence them for good? Well, we are starting a new series today called Raise Them Up. And this series is all about encouraging you, strengthening you, and equipping you for this task of raising kids. And today I want to talk about 4 seasons of parenting, the unique demand that meets us in every one of those seasons. And I'm going to give you one practical strategy for each season, and then I want to give you a promise to hold on to. So let's start with littles. I think this is the most physically demanding season of raising kids. When you think about just all the stuff you have to carry, you carry the kid, you carry the bag, you carry the car seat. My arms have never been more toned than in that season. So you're just doing so much. Carry is physically demanding. And then I had a baby who was colicky. Anyone else have a colicky baby? Woo! That is exhaustion in a word. And he cried, I cried, we cried together. And I just thought, what did I do to get such a sad baby? It was so hard. And I would lay down at night, the minute my head hit the pillow, I would hear a baby crying. And I'd grab the monitor and I'd be like, is that my baby? Guys, it wasn't my baby. There was a crying baby that lived in my head. That was the level of exhaustion I was at, physically demanding. And then our second son was an adventurer. I feel like I spent the majority of my time every day just trying to keep the kid on the ground. Get down, don't climb on that, don't jump from there, It was exhausting. There's the physical demand that meets us in this season of raising kids. So here's my strategy for this season, and that is build a bedtime routine. Told you we were going to be practical today. Build a bedtime routine. This is a bit of a soapbox for me. I think this is one of our most important jobs in raising kids, is helping them get enough sleep. Now, when kids are well rested, they're just nicer to be around. Now, if you've ever been at a theme park at the end of the day, you know that's true, right? Woo, that takes me back to Disney, 2007. That was a season. So build a bedtime routine. Here's the deal. This is great for kids, and it's great for parents. And if your kids are used to a routine, you know what? It's easier to hand them off. Grandpa and Grandma, here's the routine. Babysitter, here's the routine. And it'll help those kids get to sleep, helps you get some time to yourself at the end of the day where you get to pick whatever you want to do. And when the kids sleep, guess what, parents? You get to sleep. And this is good. And parents that are in that little season, we see you, we know you're tired. I hope you get a nap today. I hope you get a Sunday afternoon nap. So I have a free giveaway for everyone here today. This is an ebook that I wrote years ago. Told you it was a bit of a soapbox. It's 11 tips for sleepy parents. And it's just 11 pages long, one tip per page. You can scan the QR code. We're also going to send it out in your weekly emails. You can grab a hold of that. A bedtime routine is a gift you give yourself. And if your kids are older, but you're still battling bedtime, then I want to encourage you. You're going to find some great tips in here. I believe it'll still be helpful. So just about the time we figure out the toddler world, those kids are going to school. And we are in a new season, right? So the school age season of parenting, I think this is the most mentally demanding season of parenting because you as the parent are managing everyone's life. And it's up to you. The kids don't drive, so it's up to you to get everyone to everything, everywhere they need to be. And so there's a lot to think about. And I know many of you are feeling the demand of that season this week as we all went back to school. So, and not to mention, parents, you have your own stuff, right? I remember, not my best parenting moment, but I remember sitting our two boys down and going, guys, I just need you to know that I have things to do that have nothing to do with you. And I think they were surprised by that, They thought the whole world revolved around them. So here is a strategy for this season, and that is to add structure. I think structure goes a long way in this season to preserve your mental capacity. I had a friend, and I would suggest starting with a central family calendar. I had a friend who was super tech savvy, and she had 4 kids, and she had an app on her phone that was color-coded for each kid. It was a beautiful calendar. I was a low-tech mom. So I grabbed this little gadget called a magnet, and I slapped a paper calendar to the refrigerator. And I put the stuff on there, and then I would tell the boys, listen, if you don't see it on the calendar, you need to write it on there because I can't guarantee I'm getting you there if it's not on the calendar. That helped a lot to preserve my mental strength. Along with this season, I think it's really good for instituting chores. And I am a big believer in group chores. You guys have heard me say this. I don't think anyone should ever have to do the dishes alone. That is a crummy job. Do it together. Get the whole family in there. That's what we did. David would wash, I would rinse, the boys would dry, we'd put it away, and we knocked it out. And it was good. And I think it's good to have the whole family clean the house. The whole family makes a mess. Why not have the whole family clean the house, right? We did that frequently when our boys were younger. We would crank up some old school rock and roll really loud through the whole house. And we just each had our jobs that we did, and we would get the house clean. But here's a key for instituting chores with your school-age children. You have to take your perfectionist tendencies and throw them out the window. No perfection. There's no room for perfection. No room for perfection. Here's the reality. A floor that is vacuumed by an 11-year-old that does the best job he can do is the floor that's vacuumed. Clothes that is folded and put in a drawer by a first grader is clothes that is no longer piled on the sofa. That's a good thing. A dog that is bathed by a middle schooler is no longer a stinky dog. Like, your kids can be a part of the work of the family, and it's so good for them. So, instituting chores, adding structure. Now, this is also a season where we add other influential adults into our kids' life. And we have teachers and coaches, music instructors, dance instructors, and sometimes this is hard for parents to have these other voices in our kids' lives. I remember one year in particular, I think our son was in 6th grade, and he wanted to play tackle football. He wanted to be Vince Young. Now that was the dream. So we signed him up for tackle football, and I remember at a practice, it was August, it's probably like 104 degrees like it is now, and it was the first practice in full pads. And meanwhile, I am on the sideline, sitting in my little chair in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm sweating. And I'm watching my kid out there on the field doing a bear crawl, and he is fading so fast. And so I'm watching him, and I start encouraging him in my head. And I'm like, oh, no. You wanted to do this. Don't you dare quit. You keep bear crawling all the way across the field. Don't give up. And I'm like coaching him in my head. Until his coach came over and got in his face. And I bet that coach was telling him the exact same thing I was telling him. But you know what happened? My mama bear rose up. And I was like, don't talk to my kid that way. Can't you see he's exhausted? It's hot. He needs a break or a drink of water. It was hard to watch that happen. You know, I just have to tell you guys, thankfully, both of those conversations only happened in my head. Because sometimes what Mama Bear was thinking came out my mouth. And that usually went really poorly for me. So we're adding other people into our kids' lives. And here's the truth, coaches and teachers and uncles and aunts and cousins, we need you. We need you. They need your voice in their life. They need your presence in their life. You're so important. And parents, I want to challenge you to be brave. Be brave and allow other people to speak into your kids' world. You know, they are going to add some structure and help shape character. And here's the uncanny thing that happens. Sometimes our kids hear another grown-up saying the exact same thing we say to them all the time, and it clicks, and they grab it. So allow those other voices in their life. You know, this is a season where you feel like a part-time parent and a full-time taxi driver. Anyone else? Yes. But before you know it, those kids are learning how to drive. And you are in a brand new season, and this I'm just calling teens. I'm probably thinking older teens. So you're in a brand new season, and you know what? I was tortured by teenage boys. It was awful. I was the geeky girl with glasses and braces, and I liked school, and I would take a book to the cafeteria and read during lunch. I was easy prey. Can we just agree? I was easy prey. And so the boys were just merciless and cruel, and they would pick on me, and my mom had to call the principal. Like, actually did was it got pretty bad. But then I had two of those creatures in my home. Right. And then it wasn't unusual for us to have a house full of teenage boys. But you know what? I loved my boys, and I loved their friends, and they were great. And God really healed that old wound in my heart through that season. It was very, very sweet. But those of you with teenagers, you know this season is no joke. It's a challenge. There's so many changes happening in our kids. And it's hard to watch them go through those changes and to grow and become. And so my strategy for this season for parents is that you need support. And granted, you need support in every season, but I think you really need support when you have teens. Here's a few scenarios where I think this is critical. When you have to tell your teenage daughter that leggings are not pants, you need friends in your corner. When you refuse to give your son the Netflix password, you need friends in your corner. When your kids just think you're completely clueless about the way the world works, you need friends in your corner. When you're convincing them that they can actually survive without the latest phone, you need friends in your corner. And when you realize your kids are starting to think about sex before they're actually ready for it, you need friends in your corner. And we're going to talk more about that subject next week. Here's the ideal scenario in my mind. You need friends who love your teens because they knew them when they were little and cute and sweet. And they've watched them grow up, and they're invested over the long haul. And they knew them when they only had hair on their head. and not under their arms or on their legs or anywhere else. And so they love them. You need those people in your corner in this season. And I remember when our kids were teens and I was teaching one of them to drive. And I felt so bad for this kid. I still feel bad for this kid because David was traveling a lot at the time. And so it fell on me to teach him how to drive. And you guys, I'm not the best driver. And I was not the best driving teacher. And I did a lot of gasping. You're too close to the edge. Slamming on the imaginary brake on the passenger side, right? It was stressful. So one day we're having to log some driving hours, and we get in the car, and my son says this. He said, "Mom, you need to chill out." It was true. It's like, "Mom, you need to chill out." And so I made a reggae playlist for us to listen to while we drive today. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll try anything. So he starts the playlist, and we're listening to the reggae, and then I'm thinking, it's working. And I am like, don't worry, be happy. Every little thing is gonna be all right. And I'm like, this kid's a genius. My kid's a genius. Like, this is working, it's so good. And another song came on, cool down the pace. You gotta cool down the pace. And I'm thinking, I am cool, I am chill, this is great. Until my son says this, "Mom, can you imagine how many babies were made to this song?" What? I was like, dude, pull over, get out, swap places, because you are not getting your driver's license anytime soon. Man, I was not prepared for that. We need friends in our corner when we have teens, but I honestly think this is the hardest time to invite friends into our life. Because of all the seasons of parenting, this is the one where our own failures and mistakes and pain come back to bite us, right? And we just don't want our kids to make the same mistakes that we made. Now, let me just talk to you teens in the room for a minute. If your parents freak out about something, chances are they just don't want you to make the same mistakes that they made. And you need to have grace with them. And parents, we need to have grace with our kids. And just love them through it. No, parents, you are not going to be perfect. There's no expectation of you being perfect. And kids, let that be a relief to you. Because if your parents don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be perfect either. And here's the thing about faith. We have faith in a God who is a redeemer and a restorer. And every stupid thing we do, he can redeem it. Nothing is beyond his power to redeem. And he can heal and he can restore. And some of life's greatest lessons are found in our failures. So let's have grace for each other, all right? So, and then teens, I also want to say, in this season, you need support too. So research shows that every teenager needs 5 adults in their life that they can talk to. That may be your parents, your grandparents, an aunt or an uncle, maybe a coach or a teacher, maybe someone here at church. But I want you to start thinking about who are your people? Who are your 5 people that you can talk to? So as our teens start to look less like kids and more like adults, we have crossed over into a new season, having adult and college-aged kids. And I think this is the most spiritually demanding season of parenting. Now, this whole adult-child thing was a huge adjustment for me. It was hard for me to acknowledge. It was hard for me to accept the fact that my babies were adults. Here's an illustration. So our oldest son was just wrapping up his freshman year of college. And the plan was, he was in Nacogdoches at SFA. So the plan was for him to come home over the summer and live with us and take some classes at ACC. And so he needed to get registered there, he needed to sign some forms, and he asked me if I would go with him. So we made a plan one Saturday to he was gonna drive home to our house in Pflugerville, and we were gonna go to ACC and sign these forms. Well, I'm waiting, and he's not showing up. And it's getting close to closing time at ACC. And I'm calling, There's no answer. I'm texting, crickets. Finally, I hear from the boy, and he's like, oh no, Mom, I overslept. I'm not going to make it in time. And it's so frustrating. I'd set aside that day to go do this with him. Well, but being a helpful parent, I call ACC. And I get a hold of a gal there, and I'm like, I just want to know, can he do this online? Could he do this over the phone? What are his options? And the lady at ACC says this to me. She said, well, ma'am, actually, as an adult, he will have to come and sign this form in person. And I literally said to her, oh, he's not an adult. He's like 18. David was standing across the kitchen island from me, just looking at me like, what did you just say? And the lady at ACC was so kind and gentle with me. She's like, actually, ma'am, he is considered an adult at 18. And I was like, speechless, stunned. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, wait a second. If he was an adult, he would have set an alarm and we would be there with you right now. Oh, that was a tough transition for me. And I was talking to my mom this week, and all of her kids are in their 50s. And this is what she said: you never stop being a mom. You never stop being a parent. You never stop caring about your kids. You never stop praying for them. And that is my strategy for this season, is to pray. So the day we took that boy to SFA as a freshman, I was up in the backyard. I was sitting on our patio doing my quiet time, and I was reading through the Bible. I was reading the Message, Eugene's paraphrase of the Bible, and I was reading through it. And this was just my daily Bible reading plan. But God gave me the sweetest gift. So I read Psalm 33, verse 13 to 15. From high in the skies, God looks around. He sees all Adam's brood. From where he sits, he overlooks all us earth dwellers. He has shaped each person in turn. Now he watches everything we do. And I just felt like God said to me, good job. You did the best that you could do. It's my turn. It's my turn. And will you let go? Will you release him? You can't watch over him. Mama Bear is not invited to college. But I am watching over him. And I love him even more than you do. And man, that was such a gift to me. And I've come back to this so many times as we've ventured into the adult child season, that God is watching over our kids. He loves them more than we do. He loves them. And I was thinking about the song we just sang this morning, that he loves them hopelessly. Now I was wrestling with that, pondering that. Hopelessly loves us. What does that look like? And I thought of an old song. It went like, I'm hopelessly devoted to you. Hopelessly devoted, right? And I thought, you know what that means? What it means to me is there is no hope that God would ever stop loving you. No hope that he would ever not be devoted to your life and your future and the plan he has for you. So I actually have a giveaway, another giveaway today. And I want to give this to someone who's in an adult parenting season. So if you have adult children, and this book is called Love, Pray, Listen. It's full of scripture. It's full of prayers. And really, it's great for anyone whose kids are maybe not making the best decisions right now. The subtitle is Parenting Your Wayward Adult Kids with Joy. And the whole idea of the book is that no matter what your children are doing, you don't have to live without joy. So if there's anyone who has adult kids that you're praying for, or anyone, all right, Neil, you're right there on the front row. That was easy. It's a great book. You can find it on Amazon if you're interested. No, of all the seasons of parenting, this is the one where I pray the most. I find myself leaning into prayer in this season. And I think partly because I feel powerless. I feel powerless in this season of my kids' life. They're not here where I can talk to them all the time and shape them. And I have to remember that when I am powerless, prayer is powerful. And through prayer, I'm inviting God's presence into their world. And I am releasing God's power into their world. And so I'm leaning into prayer. Here's what I think happens sometimes in all the seasons of parenting, that we see the demand of the season and we see what we are capable of. And there's a gap. Any of you feel that gap? Maybe you're living in the gap. And so we I better pray. And hopefully God can make up the difference. Hopefully God can fill the gap. And you know what? I think we're missing it. Because God doesn't just make up the difference. He makes all the difference. And we need to learn to lean on him in prayer in every season, in every day, in every situation our kids are facing. Don't wait until you're exhausted to look to God. You can look to him in every season and every day. So raising kids is not just about enduring the changing seasons. I really believe it's about finding joy in every season. So I have another scripture to share, and this, I believe, is a promise for you to hold on to as you're raising kids. It's in Colossians chapter 1, and again, I'm reading from the Message, verse 11 and 12. We pray that you'll have the strength to stick it out over the long haul, not the grim strength of gritting your teeth, but the glory strength God gives. It's a strength that endures the unendurable and spills over into joy. Thanking the Father who makes us strong enough to take part in everything bright and beautiful he has for us. And I think the reality is we can parent like this, right? And we can grit our teeth in that physical demand of carrying everything. And we can grit our teeth in the mental load of getting everyone everywhere. And we can grit our teeth in the teen years and the adult years. But God is saying, my strength is here for you. My strength is here for you to help you endure and actually to spill over into joy and to help you feel more like this. To experience the joy of every season. There is joy to be found in every single season. There's beauty in every season.